Hey y'all, I'm Dalton's older sister Delaney, and he has graciously, but maybe not willingly, allowed me to record some few kind words from abroad as I am in graduate school in England. As hard as it is sometimes to give words of praise for the little brother I once picked on, that dilemma has not presented itself in some time. One distinct moment standing out in my mind that encapsulates Dalton's passion for this organization is the night he was announced as a state officer. It was peak time in the pandemic in 2020, and our family was gathered around the TV to watch this very convention from our living room. A couple of his closest friends had come over to support him, and we were anxiously awaiting for the announcement. When we saw his photo come up on our TV, Dalton was more than overjoyed. He was ecstatic to serve this organization. It was a servant leader's celebration, not a personal one. I knew from that moment that he would leave a lasting impact on this organization at a state level, and I think that we are all proof here today in the 918 that he has. When I got the call from my mom the night of last year's convention that he had become the state president, there was not an ounce of surprise in my body. I knew that he would serve the state with compassion, and he would do it while making me laugh at the same time. I was at a friend's birthday celebration, and I immediately shared the news with all of my friends around. And even if they didn't know anyone in FFA, they knew the prestigious reputation that this organization has and how vital his role would be. I unfortunately have not been physically around in the last few months to see his impact, but I'm thrilled that our younger brother Colby has gotten the chance to stay connected with Dalton on this level, and I will let him finish this long-winded introduction in a more live-action manner.
Obviously, the favorite sibling is the one standing right here. Growing up, the Dalton I knew was slightly different than yours. To late nights working on his truck, to almost burning the house down on numerous occasions, he has always been some sort of clown. However funny as these times may be, the other side to him shows his courage, passion, and true heart of servitude, giving his all not only to his friends, but to this entire organization. When I'm asked who my role model is, there is always, without a doubt, one person that comes to mind. Dalton, you've shown me the beauty that FFA has to offer. Through hard times and struggles, you have always been there to bring me back to my senses. Truly, you are the person I am most proud to stand beside, and I wouldn't trade you for the world. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing my brother and your current state FFA president, Dalton Rogers.
China has identified the cause of the mysterious new virus.
Coronavirus.
There are fears a rapidly spreading virus has reached Australia.
This is a rapidly emerging situation.
The first US case has been detected.
There's confirmation the coronavirus has reached Australia.
China is urging its citizens not to travel abroad as it struck.
I have today declared that the coronavirus presents a public health emergency in the United States.
This is how the night of May 28th unfolded.
It's been nearly 3 weeks since Milwaukee Democrat Tim Carpenter was assaulted by protesters.
Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the largest invasion of a neighboring country in Europe since World War II.
Russia unleashing a brutal military assault on Ukraine. We saw fighter jets flying over the city this morning. Tonight, did see air raid sirens wailing. The Russians launching over 160 ballistic missiles and rockets.
President Trump spends 3 days in the hospital recovering from coronavirus.
Putin is the aggressor. Putin chose his war.
Transferred it to the intensive care unit.
The city may have to temporarily bury bodies on public land if they run out of morgue space.
"20 years I've been on this earth, and like I've said before, I'll say it again, I've seen the changes in the ways that we interact with each other. From the rise of Vine to the fall of Vine, the rise in TikToks and the rise in COVID-19, the way that we communicate with each other is now more different than ever before. Now, I'm not one to beat a dead horse over something that we all know is still very prevalent in today's society, but there's something that almost seems natural about the way that our organization reacted to it. Maybe it's because we hear it all the time. I believe in the future of agriculture, with a faith born not of words, but of deeds. Achievements won by the past and present generations of agriculturalists, in the promise of better days through better ways. Even as the better things we now enjoy have come to us from the struggles of former years. Ladies and gentlemen, as we sit here, the BOK Arena on May 3rd, 2022, I think we can all agree that those last 18 words are now more meaningful and more prevalent than ever before. It's no lie that the last few years have been rough. But we're here. We're not just here, but here in the promise of better days through better ways. That constant drive, unique resourcefulness, and continuous desire to grow is something that we find in spades in this organization. When we were faced with the adversity of a global pandemic, we chose to get better instead of get beaten. We pushed forward and did everything that the state of Oklahoma would allow us to do. And FFA members, you were there through it all. And as we start to see the end of this struggle, there are surely more to come. But we'll be ready for them, just as we always are. Now, if you know anything about me, you know that I'm the kind of person that wants to do it all. And believe it or not, being a news reporter was something that was on my list of things for quite some time. I don't know. I mean, there was something that was just so intriguing to me about being in front of a camera with the spotlight shining on my face. To tell you the truth, part of it still intrigues me to this day. However, over the course of the last few years, I think I've figured out why. People! I have a passion for being able to connect with people, to hear their stories, learn about their struggles, their passions, and the goals that they have set for their lives. It's something that has been at the heart of all of my endeavors since I was just a little kid. You see, I grew up with absolutely no agricultural background whatsoever. I mean, come on, guys. Before my 8th grade year, the closest thing to a pair of boots that I owned was a pair of Crocs. Joining the FFA turned my life around. I went from a shaggy-haired kid who loved to blurt out in class and had absolutely zero filter to someone who felt comfortable sitting down and having in-depth conversations with adults and students alike. I learned how to effectively communicate my thoughts and ideas, get rid of that small talk language, and actually have intentional conversations with those around me. I can attest all of who and what I am today to my local FFA chapter. Where's Owasso at? There you guys are. Above that, however, it was my ag teachers. Can we get a round of applause for our ag teachers real quick? You see, there's something truly special about ag teachers. I mean, there's no other class where you get to have the same teacher for 5 whole years, unless you did 5th grade like 5 times. Mr. Holloway and Mr. Nemechek quickly became my mentors, my role models, and they were people who were outside of my immediate family who genuinely wanted me to succeed, even if I didn't want that for myself. They were never afraid to tell me what I needed to hear rather than what I wanted to hear. How many of you have an ag teacher like that? And I learned that lesson the hard way. Freshman year, the FFA Creed. Where's my Creed speakers? I wasn't prepared at all. Not that I didn't have it memorized, though, because you can bet your sweet little bippy that I had that thing memorized down to a T, ready to go. But you see, I never once studied for questions. I relied on an ability that I discovered at a very young age to just talk. And boy, was I good at it. I would get asked a question, I wouldn't know the answer to it, and I would find some way to answer it without really answering it. That wasn't until the district contest, where I actually had to know what I was talking about. I mean, come on, right? I got asked a question that I didn't know the answer to, and I tried to answer it in some roundabout way, playing the pity card, saying that I came from a split household where my mom was an educator in the state of Oklahoma, and all of these other things about how I had it rough. The judges didn't care. I didn't know the answer to the question, right? I didn't make it out of that contest that night, and I was hurt. I was upset because freshman Dalton, he knew that he was the best speaker in that room. He was the best. And when it came to speaking ability, well, I might have been. But that bus ride home that night, I got no consolation from my ag teachers. You didn't study for the questions, did you, Dalton? They could see right through my lies. It was that night that I realized if I wanted to be successful, I was going to have to work for it. You can't rely on talent alone to take you very far in this organization or ultimately in life. While my ego was tainted over not winning the creed contest, I was ready to push myself. I learned that if I wanted to be successful, I had to work for it, rather than letting the uniqueness of my circumstances do the work for me. I found that, I struggled learning how to adapt to this blue corduroy jacket because I had no agricultural background at all. But I also learned that my uniqueness was my strongest trait. I was unique in my own right. Through struggle and strife, just like all of you, it's our uniqueness that allows us to add value to the lives of those around us. It's our uniqueness that helps to make us newsworthy. I want you all to think to yourselves for just a moment. What makes you unique? What about you adds value to the lives of those around you? What makes you newsworthy? If there's one thing that I've learned about our organization that sets us apart from every other leadership organization on this earth, it's that with our deep roots in the agricultural field, we are no strangers to having to put in that extra work to see the kind of success that we want to see for ourselves. That's what I love about us. We have to work. When you walk into that CDE contest, nothing else matters. All of that time and effort that you spent researching your topic, becoming what I like to call a mini expert in your field, is about to go to work. Now, you may not win. You might place dead last, just like I always did. But at the end of the day, you can look back and see how far you've come. I was looking in that spotlight hitting me in the eyes, and it made me kind of think about how special of a place this is. I'm talking about convention as a whole. You see, it's a time and a place where we can all come together and forget about everything that's going on at home. But I know that there's a group of you in here right now that are living your best life. You're having the biggest smile on your face, having so much fun. You're with your best friends. But part of you is dreading that bus ride home, where you have to return to a place where you're not appreciated, where you're not loved. I know that there's another group of you in here right now that are worried if the electricity will be on when you get home. And that there's another group of you in here that go by a different name than the one that's on your jacket because you're ashamed of it. Struggles, FFA members. Everybody in this room, in this entire convention, has their own set of struggles that makes them unique. Who in here went to alumni camp this year? Well, if you didn't get the chance to go, first off, I highly recommend it. But for those of you who went, you know that we went through an activity known as the Trust Circle. Who knows what I'm talking about at the end of camp? There's a lot of whoops and a lot of, oh gosh, he's going to bring that back up. For those of you who didn't get the chance to go to camp, the trust circle was a very simple activity where the small group would circle up, set out their chairs, and the small group leader would read off a list of questions. And when that question pertained to you, you would simply get up, cross the circle, and sit down in another chair. Started off with questions like, cross the circle if you like dogs more than cats. If you stayed seated, you were wrong, by the way. Cross the circle if you like the mountains more than the beach. Cross the circle if you like Ford more than Chevy. I'm a Ford guy myself. But we quickly got into some more deeper topics. Cross the circle if your parents are separated or divorced. Cross the circle if you know someone who struggles with addiction. Cross the circle if you've ever lost somebody to cancer. Cross the circle if you've ever lost somebody to suicide. The atmosphere of that small group circle quickly changed to something much more somber. And then we got to the last question. Cross the circle if you think nobody at your school knows the real you. You all want to know what was almost unanimous amongst all 4 sessions of camp? Every single camper got up and crossed the circle after that question was asked. And it really got me thinking, why? Why do we hide our unique selves from the world? Well, the answer to this question, it's not a simple one. The summary is this. We hide our unique selves from the world because we live in fear that people are going to judge us for our scars, for the parts of us that maybe aren't the most perfect. Everybody in this room is guilty of that. But why? I mean, our struggles and trials, they're what make us who we are. They're the building blocks of our character, and sometimes they define who we are to an extent. I was 16 years old when my life changed. I was driving home from school one day when suddenly I was thrown out of my lane of traffic and came to a sudden halt on a concrete wall from about 45 miles an hour. Through hours of blood tests, scans, and time that's honestly still a little bit blurry to me, I heard some words that still ring in my ear and serve as a reminder as to what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. We don't know if he'll be able to walk. Came following the MRI scan that showed I had compressed my spine in 2 places, causing the vertebrae to fracture. Now, after 5 grueling days in the hospital, the doctors discovered that the fractures were not pressing on my spinal cord and that I wasn't in danger of becoming paralyzed. But I still had a long road of recovery ahead of me. I was confined to a back brace for 24 hours, 7 days a week. And as you could expect, 16-year-old Dalton, 3 days, that thing started to smell awful. I wasn't supposed to do anything that would put pressure on my back in fear that the fractures would worsen. Essentially, I was bedridden for 3 months until I was finally given the all clear to return back to my normal life. But what was my normal life? I mean, it was the end of summer. All I'd really managed to do was lay in bed, sleep, eat a whole lot of junk food, play a lot of video games, and watch a lot of Netflix. I probably finished 4 seasons over that summer. I was proud of that. I also had a lot of time to reflect, my friends. I was 16 years old at the time, and I realized something. What we have here, FFA members and guests, this blue corduroy family, this sense of belonging that we get is precious. It is so very precious. And it's something that can be taken away from us very quickly and very easily. And oftentimes, my friends, we take it for granted. Up until that point, I had gotten really good at hiding certain parts of myself. Hiding the other parts because I didn't think people would accept me for who I truly was. And I don't tell you this story about this car wreck as a cry for help. I don't want anybody's pity. That struggle that I went through 5 years ago, I wouldn't have changed it for the world, FFA members. And you might ask why, and I'll tell you. It's because it opened my eyes to what life is truly about. It's about living. FFA members, don't be afraid to be vulnerable with one another, to show the world what truly makes you unique, because your scars are what make you who you are. Just like a tree. If you cut down a tree and you examine the rings, to a trained eye, you can see the years of that tree's life where something traumatic happened to it. But it still stood. FFA members, we are stronger than we know, and just because we have struggles that make it seem like we're going to fall, keep pushing. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable with others in spite of the people that are going to judge you for it, because the people that truly care about you, and I want you to listen to this, the people that truly care about you, and I promise they exist, most of them are in this room right now. They don't care about the things you've done, the mistakes you've made, or the things that have happened to you. They just care about you. Having the opportunity to serve for 2 years as a state FFA officer, I've had the honor of knowing some of those high-caliber people. I'd like to take a moment of this time to thank them for their service to this incredible organization and being my friend. I won't lie when I say that I struggled learning how to adapt to this new team because I had grown so close to last year's. But I can now say in confidence that the 7 individuals that have stood alongside me throughout this entire year are some of my closest friends and have left a tremendous impact on my life. When I say your name, will you please stand? Kiweta, Abby, Heisler, Burns, Carson, Cade, and Tyler. This past year has been a whirlwind of emotions, guys, and I am so proud of all of the time and effort that each of you has spent pouring in to these guys right here. Saying no to many of the opportunities that college can present us in order to truly live out your role as a state FFA officer is not something that just anybody can do. It has been such a blessing spending this year calling you all my team. But I look forward to the rest of our lives where I get to call you all my friends. As we're wrapping up our journeys in the jackets, I want you to remember why you put your name in the running in the first place. Keep that fire and desire to impact others as you go through the next years of your life. I love you guys. You can be seated. Now, last year's team, we know a thing or two about struggle. Being in the thick of COVID, and we weren't really sure if we were going to have a normal state officer year or not. But the greatest thing about that year was it didn't matter to us. We were determined to do everything that we could with what we had, where we were. Once again, when I say your name, will you please stand? Karsten, Tate, JC, Caden, Jacob, Tanner. And I know Coda wasn't here to be with us, but I want you all to know that you are some of my closest friends. And thank you so much for supporting me throughout this year. I love you guys. You can be seated. At the end of the day, we all struggle. But it's our struggles that help create a unique ability in each of us to add value to the lives of those around us. It's what makes us newsworthy. But what even is newsworthy? How do we define what success is? Well, I'll let you guys in on just a little secret that my mama told me a long time ago. Success is not something that can be tangibly measured. Rather, it be a culmination of all of your hard work and effort. It's not the amount of medals around your neck, trophies on your wall, buckles on your belt, or the amount of times you've walked across this stage. Rather, it be the journey to get there. And if you guys don't remember anything else that I say to you today, I want you to remember this. Scoot in close. Scoot to the edge of your seats, guys. We are not defined by our struggles. Rather, we are defined by the good deeds that we did along the way to help those around us get better. Just like these individuals.
I grew up a little community west of Duncan called Empire. I live in the Ada area, actually closer to another small community by the name of Rolfe, Oklahoma.
I'm a member of the Porter FFA. I'm a sophomore. I do speech contests and exhibit livestock.
I'm a junior at Lamega High School. I am the secretary of our FFA chapter. I have been in FFA since my 8th grade year.
The most influential person in my life was my ag teacher. That influence still carries through today and instilled for me a love for agriculture, an understanding of what it means to work and to be diligent in what we do. I want that to be able to be passed on to others as time goes on, and that's the principal reason that I'm excited about being able to put another young man or a young woman in a blue jacket.
Community service is a top priority to me. Loving your neighbor is what community service is all about.
Community service is a very important thing. It's always good to know that you can make such a big impact in someone's life over some little things that you do.
I would encourage each of you to find something you're passionate or curious about and use your giftings to serve others.
To be able to serve others around us through our local FFA chapter or whatever that is, I think that's what we're all called to do, is be servants of what we've been given stewards of.
Finally, as we close tonight's broadcast and I approach the end of my year of service, I would like to take a moment to examine that word, newsworthy. What does it mean? How is it attained? What is the point in even wanting to be newsworthy? Let's face it, in the reality of today's challenges, wars, and pandemics, it's easy to assume that something considered newsworthy is negative. It's what we hear. It's what we talk about on our phones, in our classrooms, and around our dinner tables. It's unavoidable, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. We shouldn't avoid the negative or fear the unknown. I can't even begin to imagine where we would be if we had let fear dictate our success. 61 years ago, a president stood up and said that we would put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. Do you know what we knew then? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. We didn't know about the lunar surface or even how to land one of these spaceships. All we'd managed up until that point was crashing into the ocean. But a man stood up, said we would do it, and we did. So I ask, why can't we approach our future with the same enthusiasm and hope? In the last 100 years, we've spliced the gene and explored the tranquility base. I think we can find the same type of ingenuity to cure diseases and in famines. In the last 100 years, we've harnessed nuclear energy and split the atom. Surely we can find the same type of tenacity to unite a country and heal a world. The last 2 years have shown me as much humanity as they have harm, and that for every challenge, there's a solution, and every disaster, a new beginning. The rising sun is a token of a new era in agriculture. What a great visual to remind us that there is no better time than now to start a newsworthy journey in our lives, FFA members. To stop hiding our unique qualities from the world and show them that the very same struggles that make you unique are the same struggles that make you successful and allow you to add value to the lives of those around you. So, Oklahoma FFA members, I have one final question for you. How will you be newsworthy?